Hey guys, Super Gadget Guy here. You're wondering why I don't have a camcorder set up today, but I have a screen capture of my computer. Is I'm doing a review of the QNAP Ready NAS system, and to me, more interesting is actually the software aspect of the storage appliance in addition to the hardware. So I decided to do a two-part series, and right now I'm actually doing a live firmware update to the storage NAS. This is my first time using the ScreenFlow capturing program, so I'm like sort of started at a different time. So this is so what happens when after you log into the TurboNAS, which I'll show you a little bit later after the TurboNAS is restarted, they will do a firmware check, and when there's a new firmware detected, they'll ask you if you'd like to update. And it's fairly simple. You can either do a live update like I'm doing right now, or you can actually go to the QNAP website and download the firmware and do a manual update. And as always, with any sort of firmware update, make sure you have a secure backup of your data. I haven't had any problem with it, but just in case, you could cause a serious degradation with your RAID array, or you don't want to lose any of your data. So I usually keep a separate backup of my data before I do any firmware update. Not the entire storage array, just all the important stuff. I have a separate backup job config to back up to an external USB drive. So that's just like a replication of only the important stuff. The entire array that I have, not this review system sent by QNAP, is 8 terabyte total, 12 terabyte raw. So bigger than any sort of single drive you can buy. But the important stuff is usually less than 4 terabyte. So this is doing the live update of the latest firmware. QNAP usually release several updates a year. Usually, a few in the spring, a few in the fall. Pretty steady, and they still supporting firmware update, even the ones I bought 2 years ago. So I'm very happy about that. Every time I update, it either improves the user interface or adds a lot of additional functionality. Not in terms so much of storage, because RAID array hasn't changed since they established RAID 5 is RAID 5, RAID 10 is RAID 10. It's not gonna make much difference there. But however, you probably can hear the beeping. That's from the NAS. That's actually only about 4 feet from me. You can't hear anything, but just a beep. Yes, I want to restart. And now the NAS is actually doing a hard reboot. I usually do not shut down my NAS. It's always on. It only gets rebooted. So that's weird. During the firmware update or when there's a power outage, I actually keep the NAS as online. Even during the power outage, I'll usually keep the battery backup running as long as possible, because it's just personal. I have a fear that once it actually gets powered down, in this sense, that there's a slight chance to never come back. And actually during the last reboot of my own NAS, one of the hard drive started to fail. I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but it works fine. But during reboot, boots up, boom, it has a smart error. So gladly it was under warranty, so I had to swap it out. Everything was fine. The array rebuilt itself fairly quickly. I think it was like 10 hours. But it was like, pretty nervous. It's like, oh my God, what if I have a second drive failure between, during the time of rebuild? You pretty much lose everything. So let's have the NAS reboot itself. Hey guys, welcome back. So the firmware has been updated. Let's take a look. Let's see. Log in. So this is the main sort of interface with the TurboNAS system. If you have a firmware update waiting for you, it will actually have a pop-up window showing that, hey, you have a firmware update, would you like to perform it now? But we just did the firmware update to the latest, as you can see. It's done. It's a very simple interface, so you can go to the overview to see pretty much everything that has to offer, and or you can do a drill down from system administration, there's a setting, you can change the name to the port, date and time, daylight savings, network. So as you can see, there's 2 Ethernet port on this. So you can do either a sort of partitioning of network. So one is on one of the switch, one's on the other. So they have network partitioning, or you can do aggregation where they will combine the 2 Ethernet links so that you, instead of 1 gigabit, you actually have an aggregate of 2 gigabits, which is pretty good. IPv6 is ready. Service binding, you can bind one certain sort of service to certain network interface independently. Security, hardware, it's notification. So this one you can have configured to your email system so that it can send you alerts to your email or instant message, so forth. It's pretty cool. Power management, if you have a UPS, uninterrupted power supply system plugged via USB, you can set up the system to shut down when there's a power outage detected, or shut down after like 5 minutes, because sometimes there can be a blip in the power. You don't want the system to shut down when the power recovers within seconds. Basically, I wait for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, as long as my battery holds out. Do that. Network cycling bin, I don't really use it. System logs, firmware update. So this is where you can either do a live update, or just have the system check for update, which it already have, where you can download it from QNAP's website and then manually load it. Now this is a lot faster, and it basically you have the control to see when it checks for update, when it does the update. So in a business environment, you said Friday night's usually a bad time to do updates. Probably Monday night, let's say the office is closed and you want to do a firmware update, and you get all your backups in place, and then you do this manual update. During the rest of the time, don't even bother checking it. You can just disable it. Restore is to wipe all the settings. You definitely don't want to do that. So this is basically a QNAP system setting under system administrations. Disk management is where you set up the volumes. So as you can see, you can do a single disk volume where individual disk is a volume. I have 8 disks in there. It's a mix of Samsung and Seagate. That's fine as long as they're the same capacity. Generally, you want to use the same set of drives, but this is a review unit, so I didn't have them to give me, this is what's provided to me. So on my own NAS QNAP system, I have all the 1.5 terabyte Seagate. Except one of them, because it went bad, I have to replace it with 3 terabyte Western Digital red drives. So as you can see, the smart information is all good, and you can set up RAID 1, RAID 0, RAID 10, RAID 6, RAID 5, JBOD, just a bunch of disks. So this is a pretty much any sort of home or small business would need. I wish it would have like a more enterprise level where, for example, drive 1 through 4, I want it to be on RAID 1 of the RAID 5, and 5 through 8 on one of the RAID 5. You can do that, but it's only one level, right? What if I want to sort of create a stripe between the 2 RAID 5s? Like RAID 15, it's not supported. But for most users, this is good enough. One thing that I also wish that the software will tell you, that when in the cases where you create a RAID 5 with 8 drives, it sort of becomes problematic when, or even 7 drives, when you decide to upgrade later, because with the RAID 5, the maximum storage on this unit, or maybe even in terms of computer science, the maximum storage volume has to be less than 16 terabytes, or else the rebuild will generate too much error, causing array corruption. So with this system, I think with 4 terabyte drives, you can only fill up to 4. They do not let you do a RAID with 4 terabyte drives with 5 of them. So in that sense, I wish they would tell you, so when you set it up front, I will do a RAID 5 with drive 1 to 4, and do another RAID 5 with 5 to 8, with 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte drives, and later on you can upgrade those to 4 terabytes. Another thing you can do is designate a single drive to be a hot swappable. So when when the system, let's say you set up RAID 5 with disk 1 through 7, And in the event that one of the drive fail, the system will automatically add drive 8 into the array and start rebuild until the bad drive is replaced. This way, in case you have a second drive failure in the array, which destroys the array completely, you can do that. And also what you can do is, you're going to see the array management. You can create a global spare. That's what I was talking about. You can configure which drive to be the spare, and you can also expand capacity. This is where you replace drive one by one, and basically, let's say you take out drive 1 and then put in a larger drive, and wait until the RAID rebuilt, then swap out 2 until you get to the end. Then you can expand capacity. Let's say right now it's all 1 terabyte drive in it. You can put 3 terabyte in it until you hit the 16 terabyte limit. That's the maximum volume that this thing supports. Sort of inconvenient. Another thing this thing, the QNAP system support is the hard drive testing. So you can set up a test schedule to do hard drive tests on a schedule basis. To me, that's not useful for a home environment, but absolutely necessary for a business environment. For a home environment, just remember, every time you do a test, you actually put in additional wear and tear on drive. To me, when the system is offline for an hour or two or a day or two, costs me nothing. As long as my data is safe, I don't care. So far, my system works great. There's no on-schedule downtime. But for business, that's a lot of money lost, right? You can't have people sitting around waiting for their storage to come back to life. So to me, I don't care. But to business, absolutely necessary. Temperature alarm, you can set that up. And smart information, as you can see, it's a by drive base. So make sure you go through drive by drive, make sure they're all good. For me, this is more than enough. When there's a smart error, I config the NAS system to email me. Right now temperature is 31, everything's good, hasn't been tested yet. Encrypted file system does support, but again, it hinders performance. I'm the only user. I usually wipe my drive before I send it back to be serviced, the hard drives to be replaced. iSCSI, this is where you can set a device to be iSCSI target. So if you need the iSCSI protocol, totally use it. And this is where you can set up volume to be virtual disk. So this is basically all the disk storage. This, again, you only need it when you're first time setting it up. Most likely, you're probably not going to use it very much. So this part, you're probably going to use it more. Domain security, you can add this into LDAP or Active Directory. Users, you can set up users, add users. And make sure you keep the admin user, not just the user of administrator group, but the actual admin user. I'll let you know why later on, because the SSH only works with the admin user. Don't know why. You can set up groups, share folder. This is where all the administration comes in, where you can set up shares and allow different protocol to mount it. As you can see, NFS, this is the Apple Web Dev Access, Microsoft Networking, Host Access Control, refresh. Quotas, you can set up quotas with the individual user. So this thing is very flexible. And the interface is pretty easy to understand. And anytime you have any problem, there's a little question mark that will basically bring you to online help. Also the form on QNAP, it's pretty good. People more than happy to help you out. Network services, so Microsoft is supported, Apple is supported, NFS is supported, FTP is supported, TurboNAS is supported. Basically, most flavor of it, it's supported. So this is basically, I'm going to skip the application because I think that's what's unique coming up to QNAP. This is the backup server. So you can set up remote replication. So when you have more than, let's say you have 2 QNAP systems, you can set up rsync between them. So you have, let's say, a central office and then you have a satellite office. You can keep these 2 as a backup of each other. No cost to you, just network. You can do that, set up replication like 2 a.m. And if you want to pay some money, let's say you only have 1 office, you can set up backup to Amazon S3 bucket, or you can do Elephant Drive. I have not used any of this yet. This is a paid service. So Time Machine. This you can enable Time Machine support. So if you have Apple computers within the group, they can back up to these things. So Apple sells time capsule at a premium. You can only buy, I think, 2 terabyte maximum, 3 terabyte maximum, but the drive, even though Apple calls it an enterprise drive, is only a desktop hard drive, and then it's not redundant in any way, shape, or form. This way, you can have it back up to a RAID array so that all your laptops, desktops of Apple is all backed up.